Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is the Wrestling Diaries, the podcast show for the average Joe blue-collar conversation. I just messed that up. Inspiration Station. Let me start over. This is the Wrestling Diaries. Inspiration Station, blue-collar conversation. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and a host of other platforms that have audio podcasts. Leave us a review. It helps us show up in the algorithm. For the video content, go to YouTube, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell for more content we release once to twice a week. We appreciate your follows. Also, the videos on Spotify looks very nice and very crisp. I am your host, Mitchell Roulane. If I didn't already say that, today we have a special guest that is actually a friend of my producers. Does he know your real name? Can I say it? Matt. He's a friend of Matt, aka Hacks from Twitch. I'll have to post your Twitch handle on here in the synopsis later, Matt. But Mr. Frank ferren, I forget his last
name. What's up, man?
What is up, sir? So how did you get the nickname ferren? Where does that come from? Or is that like your middle name or something?
Ferren actually was, believe it or not, so I'm a Twitch streamer, and that's how Hacks or Matt and I met each other. And I like playing games and entertaining people. So one of the things I used to do was I would play some of these medieval games, and I would just get so annoyed with, like, you know, you play Skyrim and you just name, it's like, you know, I'm just going to name my character Zach. Yeah, whatever.
Oh, right.
or Bob or something. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to try to role play here at least a little bit. So I was like, okay, what could be the most like medieval like thing I could do with the name Frank? And so I kind of like looked into it, and I was like, you know, I come from a Scandinavian background, and like I guess the most relevant thing that would be close to like Frank in those days would be something called like, it would be like ferren or faran. So I took that and I just ran with it, and I changed the letters up a little bit and just called it ferren because that's my background. And my original handle that I had for my streaming platform was Fenris Productions, off the Fenris wolf from Norse mythology. So all of it was kind of trying to be like Norse related without shoving it in your face. You know what I mean? Just kind of like little background stuff. So it's not something I obsess over, or you know, it's not a big part of my content, but it was just something I thought was cool and different. So I was like, all right, this is my theme I'm going to roll with. So
yeah,
that's where that came from.
That's awesome, man. That's a hell of a origin story. I like it. I like it a lot. And also, it's really cool that you know, like your historied on that kind of stuff. But I must say, in rebuttal to that, if you were playing an RPG or some really awesome badass medieval game, can you imagine how hilarious it'd be that you're just a freaking killer? You got the highest points, the biggest power level, whatever, and your name is just Bob. Like, yeah. Oh, don't mess with him. That's Bob. And they're like, what, Bob? And they're like, yeah, Bob will F you up.
Camera zooms in dramatically on his face, head tilted, like, what did you guys just say? Bob. What did you just say? Yeah. I do like getting those silly names in there. I believe I ruined I believe I ruined an entire Chrono Trigger playthrough by naming the robot Donkey. And everybody was just like, why did you name the robot? Like, why did you name Robo Donkey? Like, you kept all the other characters' names serious and you named him Donkey. And I'm like, I don't know. I just thought it would be hilarious when we're reading the cutscene.
Yeah, it builds character, I think. I feel like it would.
Oh, dude, people, you'd be surprised how many like purists got so mad. They're like, he named Robo something ridiculous. Can you believe this guy? Get him out of here. We don't want to watch this anymore.
Yeah. Matt, did you tell your buddy ferren here who he looks like? Or maybe you haven't spotted it yet. You ever listen to Deftones?
Deftones? I know who you're talking about. I've heard of them. Yeah.
Yeah. You see it, Matt? What's his name? Is it Sonny? Sonny's the lead singer, right? Is it Sonny? I think it's Sonny. I don't know. Maybe pull it up. But yes, you have that look. That's a hell of a compliment, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Do you want to know something ironic? I have a cat, and my cat's name is Sonny.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That's destiny, actually kind of ironic. Yeah,
we're manifesting destiny here.
Yeah.
So You do. What's your Twitch channel? Let's go ahead and put that out there for people. They're wondering, want to get in and see you playing video games and stuff like that.
You can catch me over on www.twitch. I believe it's /ferren FERREN. And all I really do over there is just I'm a variety streamer and I do a few different things. So for the most part, I do gaming playthroughs where we usually do challenges. Sometimes we do I'll start a game. I usually rile my chat up because they'll be like, "No, don't start on the hardest difficulty. You've never played this before." I'm like, "No, now I'm going to do it just because you guys told me not to."
Nice.
And then we go in there and we have a fun time. That they get a kick out of seeing me get extremely hyper and wound up, and sometimes I'll just be silly out there just to make people laugh and whatnot. So a lot of my content's mostly silly, laid back comedy. I don't take myself very seriously. And then in the instances that I do, if we're having a discussion or something like that, we'll stop everything and we'll if people want to talk about stuff, we'll talk about stuff. It happens every now and then, but for the most part, kind of like hacks, I think people come to my channel usually like later on in the evening when they're kind of winding down for the night, just because like I keep vibes simple and kind of I like to just have fun and be silly. So
that's awesome, man.
Matt over there knows he's been in a few times and he can vouch that it gets pretty silly over there. So
that's good, man. People need more of that in their lives. Everybody's so like wound up, so tight. They're so hermetically sealed in a little plastic box. People need to laugh more and be silly. Take things so seriously. People take things so personally too. Can't even make jokes. Somebody gets offended by every little thing that's said. So that's good, man. It's good to have some levity. Levity is what the world needs. Real medicine. Dr. Patch Adams wrote a book called Gesundheit. Talks about like the healing power of laughter and humor and all that.
Oh yeah. It's funny because I was talking to Hacks here before we started, and I'm on a vacation right now from streaming because I had to stop for a little bit because I went through a little bit of a I don't want to call it like an identity crisis. That isn't what it would be, I guess, but I did have to stop there for a second because I found myself surrounded by a lot of my peers who are more serious content creators, and they're a lot more serious, I guess you could say. And it kind of put me in a spot every once in a while where I thought, like, should I be more serious with my content or not? Because I feel like sometimes, and comedians go through this same thing. Like you talk to any comedian and they will tell you they've had this problem at one point in their career or life. Like the second you kind of like step off the stage and stop being super silly all the time and you're just trying to hang out with people or do things, it's hard for people to take you seriously or talk to you because like they just can't imagine you outside of like that,
Yeah, they put this label on you and stuff like that. It's just the same thing with movie stars, right? Like I don't want to give them a bad rap because I'm always like for the movie stars that act like a-holes and stuff. It's like you signed up for this, right? I get it. You don't have a private life. People are harassing you and chasing you with cameras and stuff, but this is what you signed up for. So, I mean, live it up. However, with that being said, like it's very taxing, and people put these labels because they see Tom Cruise in a movie, right? And he's the fun-loving action hero guy, and then you meet him in person, and he's an asshole. And then they wonder, "You're my hero." And I think that's where that quote comes from. Never meet your heroes. We had a celebrity on this show, a guy that I followed for many years. He's a retired professional fighter, and he's like an action movie star and stuff. And he was just, and if you ever listens to this, I mean, he's fine. He's in California. He can't beat me up. But if you ever meet me in person, Kung Lee, I just mean this with all due respect, but you were very much a prima donna, and I can totally see it. I get it. Like he's in Hollywood and all this stuff, and he just doesn't talk and function like regular people. But it doesn't. At the end of the day, you should just be who you are, right? Like whatever that is, and not like. I borrow things from people, like certain personality traits or certain styles or certain ways about doing things. But at the end of the day, I always have to constantly remind myself, like, hey, it's awesome that you're looking towards them, but you aren't them. Like, you're you. So you should do what makes you feel most natural.
Oh yeah. And that's what it came down to because I was talking with a friend and I said, "You know what? I kind of gotten to the point now where I think I'm just going to lean into the jackassery even harder."
Jackassery. I love that. I love that euphemism.
I was like, I'm going to lean into it even harder. And like the
Bro,
first thing I did,
sorry to interrupt you. Is that Sonny in the background right here on your right shoulder? Or maybe it's your
that's
left?
that's literally him.
Sweet.
That's him right now.
The cat's just in the background. He wants to be on the pod. He wants to be on the pod.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's what they do.
It's a cute cat.
You just missed it. They were literally having a cat battle like right over
here. Oh, you
here.
got more than one cat.
Yeah, this is Sunny. I've had him for a few years now. I found him. Let me see if I can move the mic so you can see him a little better. I found him in North Carolina one night when I was walking home from the bar, and as I got into my neighborhood, he was literally like just laying underneath my roommate's car in our driveway, just like sitting there, just small kitten, just hanging out, just big raindrops. Just it was fat raining. It was not good rain, and he's just sitting there calmly under the car, like not even bothered by any of it. And I'm looking around. I'm like, where's your family, man? What are you doing out here? And he's just sitting there looking at me, all like happy and whatnot. So I picked him up and I brought him inside with me. I didn't tell my roommate and his wife at the time because I was just gonna wait and see if I could talk to him in the morning. So I kind of did the whole like, hey, what do you guys think if I got like a cat or something? And they were like, nah, we can't do that. No, And I'm like, well, I better not let them know I have a cat in the bedroom right now.
Nice.
So I asked the bar I used to go to it's nothing, special. It was a Buffalo Wild Wings.
Okay. They got good wings there.
Yeah. I used to like going there after work watching sports, and then I had friends that worked there. So I asked some of the girls I knew, I said, hey, would one of you girls be cool? I don't care who it is. Anyone want to like help me watch this cat for a little bit while I get my place together? Cause he doesn't have anywhere to stay and I don't think he has a family. And I'll pay for food, water, et cetera, as long as he can just have a place to bunk. One girl was nice enough to help out. And so she watched after him for a little while. And then I eventually got a place and we've been together ever since.
Wow.
It's been like 5-6 years now. Then Taz is the other cat that I got. And I just got him about, I want to say I got him in February or March. And his sole purpose that I got him was because I wanted to have a friend here for Sunny in the house while I'm at work.
Mm-hmm.
But I found him at PetSmart.
Okay.
And it was kind of sad because as I was walking up, I saw him and he just was really like, he wasn't being crazy about it, but he was very much like, boom, like attached to me. And I looked at his paperwork and I saw that like apparently he'd been adopted and they had him for like a week or two and then they decided to bring him back to the PetSmart. And I felt like kind of bad about that. And I felt like that was really sad. So I looked at him. I was like, all right, you know what? Can I go in there and pick him up and hold him or whatnot? And he's, yeah, sure, go in there. And so when I picked him up, no animal's ever done this, but he straight up like an actual human wrapped his paws around me, gave me a hug, and he squeezed tightly and he just sat there. And so I was like, all right, man, I knew I shouldn't have came in here. All right, you're coming home with me. So I got the lady in there to get me the paperwork and we brought him home. And man, when I first got here, he smelled like a barnyard. Literally, it was just so stinky. I took him in and gave him a bath and immediately, and now dude roams around here. He's like a little king. We named him Taz because he's constantly hyper, like the Tasmanian devil.
I was literally, that was, if you didn't say that, I was going to be like, so does his name reflect his persona? I'm just curious. Is he a Tasmanian devil?
He is.
That's one of my favorite Looney Tunes. Taz.
Oh yeah. He's genuinely a little Tasmanian devil. You'll probably see him at some point during the podcast here, spazzing out in the background. So if you see him run across like a jaguar, be prepared.
Nice. So let me ask this question, man. If you're comfortable giving out your location, where are you at? Where are you from?
I'm from North Carolina.
Okay.
You
said that earlier, but I wasn't sure if that was like you were just there and then now you're somewhere else or something.
Yeah. I live kind of in the center of the state, right around the Fort Bragg area.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm as a trade, I'm an engineer. I work at a tire plant. So
oh, sweet.
For my day job, I work on electronic devices, mostly from automation equipment to power relays, control relays. I also every once in a while help set up different equipment. Right now, I'm not very big into it because I'm early on in my career, but I help some of the senior engineers out every once in a while in regards to working on schematics and stuff like that. If they want to do like professional drawings and stuff, it's mostly a lot of them teaching me and me sitting there watching for now. But later on, it's like, there are times where it's like, okay, I think you can handle this. I want you to do this, so I do get projects like that every once in a while. But since I'm kind of early on, they just mostly like me for those big things to kind of sit back and watch.
Yeah.
So,
did you go to school for engineering?
No.
That's even better.
I got into it actually. So when I was 18, I joined the military and I went into the Marines and got into avionics. So I took an ASVAB test and they scored me at like I think it was like a 90 or a 92. I can't remember. It was in the is somewhere between 89 and 93. I just can't remember the exact number. All I know is that it was high enough that I couldn't do one job, and that was like aircraft control or whatever. Those guys' lives were miserable anyways, though. So it's like those guys are the types of dudes that they are up like. Their work hours just suck. That's all. But other than that, that was like the one job I didn't do. So at first I was going to join infantry, or I wanted to be in like a tank battalion because that's what my uncle and my grandfather did. And so I wanted to follow in their footsteps and kind of be in a tank battalion. But my dad eventually was slowly talking me out of it. And my recruiter was talking me out of it because he was like, look, man, you scored pretty high and you're pretty smart. You should do something that when you get out is going to reward you with like a career. He's like, you want to get out and just be a cop? And I'm like, all right, I guess you got a point. So they convinced me. So I went into avionics, and then from there they took me to a school in Pensacola where they train you on, basic electrician work, and they show you how to read schematics, how to work on basic electronics, and how to wire equipment. And then from there you get split up into different sections, and based on like what they need, you get put into a certain job field. And I got put into comms and navigation. So I was mostly working on night vision goggles, receiver transmitter equipment, radars, satellite equipment, GPS equipment, chaff buckets and flares. And then also like submergible radios. So like if you fell out of an airplane, you have a radio that can work while you're in water and you're like trying to communicate with somebody. But that's about it in a nutshell.
Whoa. Hoorah.
Hoorah, indeed.
How long were you in the Marines for, man?
For 5 years. I was in from 2012 to 2017. And then after that, I got out and I didn't know what I wanted to do for a while. So I honestly thought I wanted to go into restaurants and just be a bartender for a while. So that's what I did. I didn't really know what I wanted to do for a career. So I just went into restaurants and just did the whole bartending thing for quite a while. And then eventually I got bored of that and went into factories.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I dabbled in bartending once. It's a really great way to meet people and talk to people. And people, they're having a couple drinks and they start talking to you. It's basically what the show is, just with more alcohol involved and more people around you.
That's right? Why I loved it, is just the communication aspect and meeting people. And then, exactly. Cool. That's what made it easy too. Being a streamer too was eventually it was like the same thing, just chit chatting with people.
So, Ferren, what do you want to be when you grow up, man? You want to be a influencer? You want to be a professional Twitcher? Or like, what's your aspirations? Like your dream? What's your dream to do?
Well, I think when I was 23, that was when it first kind of came into my mind. But I've never really said it out loud. I think a lot of people think I want to go the content creation route, but that's definitely a hobby, and that's something would be cool if it works out that way. But if there's something I wanted to do with my real life, I personally wanted to get into real estate investing and actually get and own my own real estate investment company. And that was where I was for many years using the stock market as a way to fund my own profits and build my own wages, so that way I could start hopefully purchasing houses. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but this year I am at the point where it's like the next 5 years, I can start looking into that scope, because everything from 23 till now has been, me learning, me failing and learning and failing and learning and failing and learning. And now I'm at the point now where I'm like, okay, you got your debts paid off. You got your responsibilities and everything lined up and in order and taken care of. You got everything else aside and you got a decent job. Now you just need to focus on taking that extra money away, putting it into a bank account, building that. And you need to focus on, okay, who am I going to call when I'm ready for this? What am I going to ask for? How am I going to be prepared to ask for it? And so on and so forth. Because one thing I really hated about my life was I was never really a big handyman, and yet I'm trying to get into a career where being a handyman's a pretty big deal, as much as it is about being a business guy at the same time. So that's what kind of got me into wanting to get back into working more hands-on in the field I'm in, because I'm like, if I can go into a factory, I can get around a lot of people that know how to work with their hands. That's where I can learn, from mechanics, electricians. I can learn from engineers. So then eventually when I finally get to the point where I'm working on my own, I have enough experience and knowledge to work with. Granted, it's houses rather than machines. It shouldn't be that different.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that difficult.
Well, dude, that's a hell of a undertaking, man. That's big boy money right there, getting into real estate. Also, I don't know if you probably have, I imagine you have, the digital real estate thing seems to be like kind of a new up and up trending thing that I've heard about. I don't know much about it. I just read a short article about it, but apparently digital real estate is something that's happening. So
yeah,
that's noteworthy to look into or not.
I should probably look into that. I never really thought of that, and I didn't know that was something that was trending at the moment. But I would definitely have to look into it, because what exactly is digital real estate?
It's basically just selling and bartering with real estate through online means, right? It's like e-commerce, but with houses and housing and property. That's basically all I can tell you. I haven't done extensive research on this. I just have a friend who does this stuff, and he sent me an article, and I read a little bit of it. And real estate is beyond me. Like, I own some real estate, but I'm not like in it. I'm not like doing what you're trying to do. I just have it. Like, I have a place in Hoover. I rent some stuff out, and then I have property out in the country that my sister and a family friend are renting and stuff like that. So I don't know. You would know more about it, but I would just look into it. It's basically I almost feel like it's bleeding into this whole metaverse thing. Maybe I don't know if they're exclusively connected, because I heard about digital real estate well before the whole metaverse thing became a thing, or is becoming a thing rather. But yeah, it's just about like, and also in my opinion, like, I'm just saying this as a general thing since you're talking about real estate, but if I had to choose, I like physical real estate. I like walking into a house and seeing it and looking around and doing all this other stuff. Digitally, I mean, I feel like there's so much room for like free in that. And maybe I'm wrong. I'm not an expert in this stuff, but like, it just seems a little artificial. It's like, you think your friends on Facebook are your real friends. Like, somebody has like 3,000 friends on Facebook, and those are all my friends. They're not your friends.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I don't know. If anybody's listening to this or watching that's into digital real estate, like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. What a dumbass. That's not how it works. I'm sorry. Sue me.
Yeah. I mean,
but anyways, it might be worth looking it up. And who knows, you might, be like, I can use this too, or, this is garbage.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely do my homework on it for sure. But I have to agree with you. I mean, I'm same way. I like to actually truly be involved right there in the nitty gritty. And the thing is, like you said, there's so much error, there's so much fallacy nowadays, and there's so much room for error. Not to mention, online dishonesty. Like when you meet the guy who's like, "Yeah, you guys want to buy this washing machine over here. I'm sure it will. We're selling it for $100. You get there and like the motor for it doesn't work.
I hear that every listing on Craigslist is just a straight up scam.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Like every single one. Like everything is just out to get your money and screw you over somehow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, and with us saying all this, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm all into e-commerce. I have like a small little Macari store and an eBay store. I sell mostly like action figures and toys, and I make a good profit off of that. Actually, at one point, that was almost my primary income. It's not now, but yeah. So there's much room for it because brick and mortar is like a dying breed, and so many things are going online. Everybody's doing it, and I get it. And you either can be a part of it or you get left behind. I understand all that, but I am a very real life, tangible person. It's like I listen to audiobooks a lot, and they're great, especially when I'm driving and I'm listening to it and all that. But I really love like to have the actual physical, like I literally have multiple audiobooks that I also have the physical books of. And a friend of mine was like, why do you already have this on your audio library? Why did you go out and buy it? And you already read it or listened to it. Why do you go buy it? I was like, because I want something in my hand. I want something tangible. Like here, this book, I have it. It's in my shelf and I can see it and I can pick it out and flip through it. I guess I'm hands-on in that aspect. I don't know.
Well, it's also like a collectible in that, right? You know what I mean? It's
and I love
like a little
that
bit
stuff.
of like a knowledge achievement.
Yeah.
Someone can say, "Oh, I like your bookshelves over here," and you say, "Yeah, I read that one. Have you ever read that? You want to take it home with you? Check it out."
Yeah.
I've actually, believe it or not, I've actually had some of the girls I worked with one time. She was a book nerd, and sometimes I'd have friends over for drinks, and she's like, "Oh my god, like this book, it just speaks to me." I'm like, "Take it home with you, have fun."
Nice.
Next thing you know, like she brings home one of my books, and then at work when she finally returned it, she's like, "I literally loved that. I actually went and bought myself a copy because I loved that so much." I'm like, "Great."
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've literally done that. There's somebody let me borrow a book once, and I read through half of it, and I loved it so much. I returned the book to them. And they're like, "Oh, you didn't like it? You didn't read it?" I was like, No. I just went and bought the real book because I liked it so much. I was like, I have to have this. Just borrowing it is not enough. It doesn't satiate my appetite.
Yeah.
And they're like, well,
Yeah.
All right, dude. Weirdo. I am not more of an oval shape. Thank you.
So,
man.
Are you you seem like you fancy yourself kind of like a scholar almost, like what kind of knowledge are you into? Like, are you into history? Are you into stuff like that?
If you ever were to visit my home, theoretically, my bookshelf is full of these things, and these are the things that I'm interested in. So I'll tell you this, and maybe this will kind of give you an answer to your question. But so on my bookshelf, I have it categorized in a way that it reminisces a diet. So I have like things that would be reminiscent to like healthy whole food eating, like vegetables and clean meats. And then I have like my junk food section, which I consider as my graphic novels and my comic books and some of my pieces of satire and all that. And then I have like books on science. I love physiology, exercise science, nutrition science, psychology. I've got stuff on that. I do have a good bit of world history. I also love sports stuff. I have books on baseball. Also have been into martial arts for a big part of my life. I've practiced some of it and just been a fan of it. I'm also part Asian, so I feel like that just fits the stereotype. So I have books on, like martial arts things, like even obscure things like fencing. I don't do fencing. I don't even really care about it that much, but it just intrigued me. And then I have poetry. I'm a big poetry romantic slob. So there's a bunch of that. Some Walt Whitman in there and Robert Frost and all that good stuff. And see what else. And political science, which I used to be really, really heavy into. And then I finally decided I don't care about that stuff. But there for a while, it was getting a lot of attention. So that's what's on my bookshelf. Political science, science, just general science books, physiology, and all that stuff. I have a good section of fiction. And then there's just a whole section that's my junk food section that may be my favorite section. It's my comic books, my graphic novels, my satire. Yeah. Actually, I used to work at a doctor's office, and a professional colleague of mine had came over to my place once, and he's looked at my book or looked at my shelf, and he's looking through some stuff. And he's like, "Oh, you got a really great. This is a really good edition of this orthopedic book you have. It's really good." And he's like looking through it, and then he sees, and he's like, "Is this Spider-Man?" And just the look on his face, you would have thought like I just pulled my pants down and just took a dump on the floor. Like he just looked like he ate a whole lemon. He's like, "Is this Spider-Man?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, it's a hunt. That's Craven's last hunt. That's where he finally thinks he's caught Spider-Man, and he feels like there's nothing left for him in the world, so he blows his head off with a shotgun."
Oh my
it's
God.
really dark. It's a really good story. The writers are really great. The artwork is excellent. And he's like, dude, I got to be honest. I'm a little shocked, Mitchell. Like I always thought, you were kind of like a deeper, type of person. Like, and a lot of your books reflected that. And then I got to this and I'm like, and there's like 2 shelves of this. Like, what? And he was like, I just guess I'm just a little bit, I mean, aren't they like for kids? And then I literally was like, dude, how dare you disrespect me like that? For kids? I was like, oh, this is our generation's Greek mythology, my friend. These superheroes and supervillains, they're like Greek mythology, Norse mythology. This is our mythology. There's like so many stories about tragedy and triumph and like real world lessons in like this stuff. Like the concept of the Hulk is not just Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but also he's reminiscent of the Titan Prometheus, who was punished by Zeus, for an eternity to have his innards eaten out by buzzards and stuff like that. And I just went on this rant like I'm going now, but just more in depthly. And then he just like steps back, he puts the book back, and he's like, whoa. He's like, all right, sorry. He's like, he's like, okay, I've never heard anybody defend like comic books like so articulately. Like, holy crap. All right, man, cool.
Yeah, what you did was just put him in his place.
Yeah.
How dare you talk about the Marvel
How dare
universe?
How dare he? You son of a bitch. I was like, have you ever read Watchmen? Watchmen is an excellent book about like politics and economy and all kinds of stuff you can pick up from it if you actually. And yeah, he just, I mean, different strokes, different folks, I guess. But yeah, I love that. That's my reading. I just went on a long tangent about that. But, yeah.
No, I honestly like that. That's great. Personally, I think.
But real quick though, and sorry to interrupt you. As scholar, absolutely not, man. Absolutely not. Those are your words, not mine. I would definitely never call myself that. I'm just some average weirdo from Alabama that kisses my cousin.
Oh, goodness grace. Well, I will say this. One thing that I noticed kind of about your explanation, you seem like you have a lot of books that kind of study the human a little bit, right? Like health. Yeah. You're into nutrition. You're into the study of the actual human itself.
Yes, I do.
So
I love. I like to know what makes us tick and how to be better. Right? How can I be better? How can I live longer? How can I be stronger? How can I be healthier? Eat better? What are the best foods? What's the best workouts? What's good for longevity? Yeah. How can I have the best sex?
Yeah. And I think the superheroes though, I did like that you made that correlation, like the modern day mythology. That's actually awesome. I never heard of it like that before.
And mythology is some standard curriculum for a lot of institutions of higher learning and stuff like that. Like you have to take it. In fact, I think, I had one of my electives was Greek mythology in school. Pretty sure. Yeah. So, yeah, man. What about you? What's your forte? Is it all like engineering stuff, like technology, tech stuff?
I'm actually very much into like a different host of things. For a few years there, I was actually studying different cultures, and I actually went through reading different holy books from different religions just so I could like understand different cultures better. So that way, when I spoke with people, from different walks of life, I would actually be able to have an understanding of, where they're from, where they came from, and not just speak ignorantly in a conversation, whether that be politically, socially, culturally, or religiously, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. And I think that time of life actually kind of opened my mind more so to just being able to actually understand people better and kind of like open the floodgates for having an open mind for different discussions and different walks of life, especially after kind of traveling around the world and meeting different people. There was a lot of times where when you go to a foreign place and you're just not used to their culture, or you don't speak their language, it's kind of embarrassing. You know what I mean? Like you go to a different place and you're trying to talk to people or kind of like react in their culture. And since you're an outsider, you don't understand how to react or behave. It's it's a little embarrassing at first if like during something that's supposed to be sad, you're acting like it's normal, or something that's supposed to be funny, you're not reacting, and I kind of got intrigued by that, and I wanted to study that a lot more. So that was something that I was really into, was cultures and history. And then technology didn't even stem, the technology stuff stemmed later on, because in a journey of trying to understand life, it eventually led me, all roads of what I was talking about led to mathematics and numbers. And
Nice.
then mathematics and numbers led me into wanting to understand electricity, because electricity is basically our modern day magic. It powers things, it makes things happen. It's the unseen element, unless if like it's raining out and we got like lightning, but whatever. But I just got so fascinated by that, and it sent me on this journey of wanting to get deeper into understanding mathematics, because I felt like mathematics is the key to the universe. It's literally what we're all comprised of, down to a molecular level. And once it got to that point, I felt like a crazy guy at that point. And before you know it, I'm just like, okay, I want to learn this, I want to learn that, I want to learn this, I want to learn that. And I just started challenging myself to truly become obsessed with the material that I was digesting. And before I knew it, I was actually trying to get into, just trying to get into the field that I was in. And a buddy offered me a program I could go into. And I got into this automation program. And they basically challenged you in 3 months. Hey, if you can learn this material, learn the equipment, and keep up, we can also hook you up with a career, and you can get into this job field. And then they hooked me up with the company I work at now. And I've been there since, just being with these gurus and learning what they do, and just spending time with them, asking them how to work on these things. And to them, of course, they're just like, yeah, we're just mechanics and electricians and engineers, big whoop. But like, to me, I'm over here like, no, man, you guys are like, we're like creating from nothing. We're just taking raw materials and we're making products for people that, and it I guess what interests me about factories is it's not about, I guess, the product you're making, but if you think about it, like look at what we're surrounded by. And everybody at home too, or whoever's listening to this, you're literally surrounded by things that we had to create from nothing. Like, we created from just raw materials. And something about all of that interested me, especially with like all of the math and all of the science that went into that. So I guess that's kind of where it stemmed from. It's a bit of a rabbit hole, but once I got really into it, it just took off from there. And I like learning about things, and I like complex stuff. So that's kind of my fix.
Yeah, it's extensively fascinating. It really is. That's cool, man. You are absolutely a heralder of the world. And I mean, like, I feel like you're being how like human beings should be. Always seeking out more knowledge, more nuance, and how you can improve. Because like I always tell people this, and I've said it so many times, I'll say it till my dying breath. Like, when you stop growing physically at a certain age, right? But your mind, your capacity for learning and education never stops. From the moment that you were born to the moment that you were on your deathbed, never stops. And I feel like a lot of people opt in to stopping. Do you know what I mean? Like, they reach a certain point, like 30 or 40 or whatever age, even in their 20s. They're like, oh, I'm an adult now. I know everything. There's nothing else. They get married, they have kids, and that's it. They stop. They just work their jobs, and they don't like seek more. And that's so weird to me. Like, just talking to you about it now makes me feel so cramped. I feel like I need to get up and do some yoga, stretch my spine. But like, yeah. And so I feel like you get it, man. I see why Matt likes you. I see why Matt's a pal of yours. Me and Matt kind of have that same, I think, outlook on life as well.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head too.
Yeah, Ferren's been a real treat. I've enjoyed his content for, I don't know, I think we met about like 8 months back. I think so. I think that's
who discovered who first. I got to ask that. Did you get on him, or did he get into your channel?
I think
it's weird. I don't know.
I think he discovered me because I was playing FF7 when the voice mod came out, and Ferren and like a whole lot of that community just came on by. It's like, you know what? I like this guy.
FF7. Is that the thing with Captain Falcon on it? Is that,
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, actually, it is.
It is? Oh, it is.
I'm
okay.
just kidding.
It
I'm
is.
just kidding.
I don't know. What is Captain Falcon on? It's F something, isn't it?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, you know it. But yeah, I was playing. I was playing that game, and that's where I met like ferren and a lot of the people in the Suna mods community because they do the voice mod, Echo S mod for FF7. So it's voicing the original PlayStation 1 or PC game and adding voice to it, adding live to it. And it's a really big project, and they're still working on it right now. Like they're probably just on still disc 1. And remember, like, yeah, I was just playing it when the Midgar session got released, and then that's where I met like ferren and a lot of other folks. And so, you know what, I like this guy. I'm trying to remember how ferren even said this. You're like really laid back yet comical, and that's something I always remembered.
He's like Mitch Hedberg.
Yeah, I think so.
The
Yeah, you got it.
deceased
Just
comedian
without
Mitch
the
Hedberg.
sunglasses and glorious amounts of weed, I'm guessing. Well, he also wears sunglasses, and
Yeah.
I think with Mitch, some of his earlier stand-up, he had his back turned to the audience and was doing his jokes and stuff because he was just so nervous at looking at the crowd.
Oh my gosh.
I never understood how in a mall when the escalator is closed down, they shut it down and people can't even walk on it. And it says, "Sorry for the inconvenience," when it should say, "Escalator temporarily stairs. You're welcome for the convenience." I don't know. It's like one of his bits. It's super funny though. Mitch Hedberg.
My goodness.
That was a horrible iteration of him.
I mean, hey, man, we all got to start somewhere. That's for sure.
I got that a lot though. Like when I used to work at Sam's Mat, so many people were like, "Hey," because he was still alive during that time, and they were like, "Oh, Mitch, like Mitch Hedberg, man, you're so funny." And I'm like, "I don't know who you're talking about." And then later on, when I looked him up, I was like, "Oh, this guy's hilarious."
Mhm.
He's a big metalhead too. I don't know if you knew that, Matt. Big metalhead. He actually had a bit about him like listening to heavy metal in his room, and his neighbors like banging on his wall because he was listening to Slayer or something like that. Heck yeah. Well, that's cool. That's cool. We got to get more people like this on here. I know the thing that you're gonna. I forgot to comment earlier. You were talking about like traveling the world and like like you can't speak to people and all this other stuff, and it's such an American thing. Like I have like close to a dozen friends from multiple countries around the world, and you know what they all have in common? They all speak English. I can't speak any of their languages though. I can't.
That's what happens. That's what happened when I went out there. I felt embarrassed because you literally get out there, and the first thing I was talking to my buddies about, I was like, I kind of feel like a jackass, and they're like, why? And I'm like, because everywhere we go, people can pander to us and speak American, but we can't, return the same kind of respect in kind. You know what I mean? Like they can learn 2 languages throughout their entire life, but we can't. A lot of people struggle having like a second language. Like I came home after going to Spain, and I immediately was like, I need to learn Spanish now. So when I was in college for a little while, I just took some Spanish classes just so I could feel better about that.
Yeah. It's funny. Some of the people that I know, they said, well, my friend Dunya, she's like, well, a lot of like me and some of the other people from the countries that you're friends with, like it's mandatory curriculum for us to learn English in school because English is like basically the universal language of the planet. Like through most channels, through bartering and trade and all that other stuff, you need to know English. And so like I was like, oh, that's very interesting. I never really thought about that, but I guess it makes sense. She was like, yeah, that's probably because I was actually like dogging us Americans out. She's like, well, she was like, you guys could be less lazy and learn the language, but over in my country, like I didn't have a choice. Like this was curriculum in like grade school that we had to learn English to speak and stuff like that. Like when she was in Belgium, I think she was telling me about. And I was like, okay. She was like, yeah, so don't put yourself down so much. You can still learn the language. Don't be lazy. She's like, but like I and some of these other people that you're describing, they had to. They didn't have a choice. It was part of their school. It's what they had to do. And I was like, okay, interesting. Very, very interesting. But yes, Americans, I love my country. It's great. It's free. Still love it. It's great, no matter how many problems it has. But we're big titty babies here. We really are. Big titty babies.
Yeah,
I'm just being
hopefully,
honest.
hopefully in due time. Yeah, I mean, you're speaking the truth, man. Hopefully in due time, a little bit more people all kind of start thinking outside of the box like that. Because I
Mhm.
think that was the biggest thing I noticed when I came home. Is just like, man, some of y'all need to if we could make it accessible for everyone, because I don't want to sound like it's easy for everyone, because it's not. But it's just like,
Yeah.
if someone for just go volunteer or go on like a trip somewhere, just something
Yeah.
like that could open up your mindset to just being somewhere completely different, where it's like none of the things that you're into or understand aren't valid. It really opens your mind. It genuinely helps clear out some of that stuff, because when you come back home and then like you try to get on social media and you're just like, God, man, if you get like, is this what we're all really bitching about right now?
First world problem. Yeah, I
First
think
world.
perspective is one of the things that people in this country are the most anemic in. Perspective, having it, they're anemic of perspective. When you have it, it makes you look at the world very, very different. When you don't have the food you want to eat, you look at food differently. When you can't wear all the clothes you want to wear, you look at that differently. When there's more violence, you look at peace differently. Conversations way different. Yeah. Anyways, I could sit here. Oh, what I was trying to say earlier is like, Matt, we got to get more of your people from Twitch on here, because this guy's really great to talk to. Obviously, he's probably not going to be like everybody's going to be like him, but who knows? But one thing, his camera looks crisp. He's got the good mic. I hear him and see him perfectly. And I have friends, from England, in other words, and God bless them. They're awesome at stuff, but like, he's already a streamer and stuff, so he's got the setup. So these like remote podcasts we do, this is one of the best ones.
Well, the thing
just
with
technically speaking,
the thing with us Twitch streamers, we're a bit of a cut above the rest. So we already have the equipment and facilities in order to deliver good video and audio.
well,
And with the people that you've been bringing on with potato PCs and cell phones and freaking laptops,
using their Motorola flip phone to talk to me.
He was telling me about the Motorola phone guy.
Yeah. My God.
Yeah, the worst.
You're
of
spoiling me
stuff.
today, though, Matt. You are spoiling me with this. I am spoiled.
I'm bringing all the good boys to the yard.
The next international guest that I do, like I'm gonna have to ask them their full setup. I'm gonna do I said I would never do checklists on this show, but because of this episode, I might have a checklist. I'm like, oh, this is what you're working with? I don't think we're gonna be able to do it. I'm sorry. If you ever want to fly out to Birmingham, Alabama, we'll have you in the studio.
Oh,
But
dude.
no, man, it's been a pleasure, dude. You've been a really cool guy to talk to. But I could talk to you for hours, man. But we try to keep these shows within an hour time frame if we can.
Yeah.
So now I'm gonna get to part of the show where I try to take us a little bit deeper. Although we've gotten down some pretty deep rabbit holes already. But what do you, Frank, Mr. Ferren? What are some of the things that you are battling with personally? Your inner demons, the monsters under your bed and in your closet. What do you wrestle with, brother?
Well, actually, it I guess I don't know where to begin, honestly. I think I'll start here. So, me as a person, as an individual, I have ADHD and I have schizoaffective mood disorder. So having ADHD, that was something I've had my whole life. That's just kind of why it's easy for me to be goofy. It's easy for me to kind of get distracted and not really stay focused on something. Now, do I have times where I focus? Yeah, I can hyper focus in on something when I'm working, or if something happens that causes me to be distraught or upset, I can hyper focus on things that make me upset too. So it's like a blessing and a curse at the same time. When I was younger, a lot of my teachers and a lot of my peers, like during the 90s and 2000s, it was really popular for people to just be like, oh yeah, this kid's got ADHD, put him in like the special education class, or put him in like this group over here. Oh yeah, he's probably going to fail the test, or he's not going to, like he's just not going to understand the material, or oh, we shouldn't just waste our time with him because he's probably not going to pay attention anyway. Like, I heard it all, for many years. And that was like one of the big things that, like, nowadays they're trying to reverse it into like, oh, this is great, but back in the 90s and 2000s, they treated that like that was like a plague. almost. And then on top of that, I grew up in a rough household. So schooling life was difficult for me growing up because my I didn't grow up in like a two-parent household. I grew up with a mother who had like an alcohol addiction and a drug addiction, and she was just non-attentive to her children. Anything that was her serving herself was her main priority, and we came last. Um, so when I went home, the house was always a pigsty. There was never really any good food to eat. You open the fridge and you imagine there's usually moldy food all over the place. The dishes aren't done. It smells like alcohol mixed with barf because it probably is somewhere in the house. And just nasty. I used to always stay in my room and never come out because I hated the house. I absolutely hated all of it. I hated the behaviors. I hated the aggressive type of people they were. Um, and so I always stayed up in my room and played video games. And so that's kind of where this started with a lot of my passions for some of the games I play, is because that was like my escape from that reality. It was like, here's the only G-rated thing I have in this household right now. I'm going to zoom in on this and ignore everything else. And sometimes I couldn't, because I had a brother who was involved in gang violence and bad stuff, and he was involved in drugs. And early on in life, I didn't have really any positive role models or guidance because my dad only stopped by every other weekend, for years, and I was too scared to tell him what was going on because my mom basically threatened me not to tell him anything that was going on. So I didn't really know, and then she would tell me a bunch of lies about him. The traditional let me brainwash you so I can do what I want to do with my life, and keep your dad out of the picture kind of thing. And that had a profound effect on me being able to trust people. So the paranoia set in from a very young age when you got like a brother who sometimes physically abuses you because you make him mad or something. You got a mom who's got alcohol problems and drug problems, so you're not ever telling her anything because one moment she's you know in a good mindset and the next moment she's in a really bad mindset. Um, and I was just uncontrollable and doing bad things. I was surrounded by all this negativity. So when I was like young, for me to pick up at like 9 or 10 years old, for me to pick up a cigarette and smoke it, I was just doing it because I just thought that was all that was all there was to it. It's like I was like, I like this cigarette, I want to smoke it. There it is. No one was around to tell me, hey, don't do that. Hey, you're a kid, you shouldn't be doing that. And most certainly my older brother, who is 7 years older than me, wasn't doing anything about it either. So um it just got to a point of dramatic situation after dramatic situation that I just became null to all of it. I thought this was life. This is how the world is. I used to get very bitter sometimes and say, why can't I have friends over, and why can't I have these normal parties, and why can't I have these normal parents, and why can't I go to school, and we don't have any TV channels, so I can't talk to about Pokemon with all the other kids, and I can't relate to them about Ratchet and Clank and all this other that's going on that's like in the now that everyone's obsessed with because I don't have access to it. So I was just disjointed for many years until my mom eventually passed away from just too much drugs and alcohol. It caused her to get liver cancer and she died. And then I moved in with my dad, who is a firefighter, and we moved in, and I moved into his house with him and his new wife, who became my stepmom. She's amazing. And it was like flipping a switch. I went from like a hellhole to like the church. I go, next thing you know, I'm in this very pristine Bible thumping house, with this like, you better be this way, talk this way, act this way kind of environment. And it was difficult for me because I had to basically go from being a bully and a punk to kind of just being refined and normal for the most part. And it wasn't perfect. I didn't have the greatest relationship with them either because like there was some friction there because I wasn't a church boy. I wasn't a poster child. I wasn't any of that. Um, and when I got into high school, it kind of fell backwards because I fell into partying and stuff like that, kind of like, and I dabbled in smoking weed and a few of those other things. And looking back on it, I shouldn't have done a lot of the things I was doing, but at the time I thought I was just having fun and living life, whatever. Um, but I think what I wrestled with for many years was just that opening, that I had to life, and how much it kind of robbed from me mentally because I lived a life, and it wasn't till maybe about a year or two ago that I finally started finding ways to find peace. Because it robbed me from a proper relationship with my mom. It robbed me from a proper relationship with my dad. It robbed me from being able to communicate with people properly. Because when you become a paranoid person because of the people that you are never supposed to betray you are constantly betraying you, you start trusting nobody. You start constantly meeting people, and then after a while you develop this mentality that you're walking into a room and you're like, I feel like everybody in this room hates me or wants to attack me, or they don't want me here. And I've been through that situation many times in life where I have to fight through those feelings and kind of just be like, that's not true. Shut up. Stop that. And that's gone on for years. And that's one of the biggest things that I personally struggle with is that kind of thought process. And then when I finally went to see some doctors and kind of get an update on when everything's going on, because I avoided seeing doctors because I would self meditate and medicate, which was I would just smoke some weed, listen to some good music, and meditate and do some yoga. And I would do everything I could to be proper and healthy and, eat good food and try to just genuinely get away from the issue. And um, it didn't work for a really long time. It just didn't necessarily work. So when I was 18, eventually my parents were like, all right, well, we don't care what you do, but when you graduate, you better figure something out. Cause my stepbrother had a baby on the way or something. So they needed the extra room in the house. And they were essentially like, we don't care what you do, but figure something out, cause you can't be in the house. All right, cool. So I joined the military and I thought that was going to straighten my life out. Um, and it did for the most part. For the most part, it gave me structure. It taught me how to be self-reliant. It taught me how to live the life I was already living, essentially, to be a man that, can do anything without the confinement of family and the world around me. And they taught me how to survive off of nothing and live in the wilderness if I had to. And then they also taught me great skills. They taught me great discipline. They taught me how to be a warrior, all that stuff that you can talk about. But the cons to all of that was I gained a lot of guilt because after I went on my deployment, I started kind of seeing what the world was really like. And I started saying to myself, like, I don't know if I like being a part of an organization where I'm basically doing somebody else's bidding that might not even be the right person to call the shots that they're making. I honor I honor what I'm doing for what I believe in, but I don't honor what somebody else is doing for what they believe in. That's having a direct impact on what I'm doing. So that kind of when I came back home from being overseas, had a direct impact on kind of like how I behaved and how I reacted to situations. I was very much very focused on trying to be a good leader and trying to give people the type of guidance I thought they needed to be in order it's to excel in life, essentially, because a lot of people would always come up to me and they'd be like, man, you've been through it all. Like, you've been through so much. Like, how can I get through this situation? You should have some advice on this, right? You've probably been through this. And I've been that way for people for many years. And then once I finally hit my boiling point of stuff that was happening to me, like I had a child and the kid's mom, I'm not going to get too deep into the story out of respect because of it's just respectful that I won't
Sure.
don't get too deep into her details. But to make a long story short, she decided, I don't necessarily want you to be around, and I want to deal with this on my own. And you can just buzz off or whatever. I don't need you around. You don't need to talk to us or whatever. And I'm like, no, I thought I was prepared to kind of be with you and be here. Like, that's just how my mentality and how I've been for many years. I was like, this is the one thing I've been waiting for my whole life, is to be able to have the opportunity to build a family based off of where I came from. And, I could actually build it and make it right. And she didn't give me that opportunity. And that messed with me mentally and led to me kind of just breaking down back in 2017. So from 2017 up until now, I was on this kind of mental spiritual journey of trying to rebuild myself from ground zero. I'm like, I already went through this life once. Like, why are you putting me through all of this again? Why am I constantly at this threshold of being held back from things I really want or from things I really care about? And I started learning over time. One of my friends told me, and it's not necessarily meant to be a religious statement or anything like that. This is just a statement they told me that I thought was really cool. But they said, well, God gives their toughest battles to their toughest soldiers, you know? And I thought about that for a while and I was like, that's just such horror. Like, why are you telling me that right now? Like, I don't want to hear that right now. And eventually later on, when I was more accepting and in a more calm and relaxed attitude, I did really think about it. And I'm like, you know what? If I want to be a CEO someday, I need to be tough. If I want to be a man that pursues difficult things, I have to go through difficult things. If I want to be someone who creates something, I have to be part of something that's going to be destroyed. And when I started slowly reflecting on a lot of these things, I finally had time to it was like a weird project, man. I had to take each little piece, put myself back together. And then once I finally had this shattered, broken mirror back together, then I had to look at the man in the mirror and try to make out who he really was. So then I had to study myself and I had to say, okay, well, what's wrong with you? I don't like the way that you talk. I don't like the way that you're late sometimes to things. I don't like the way that you do this sometimes. I don't like the way that you do that sometimes. Okay, how do we work on that? And I'm still working on that part, right now to this day, where I'm still dialing in and fine tuning those little pieces. But the big thing that I had to definitely do was go talk to someone professionally and say, hey, here's my life. Here's what I'm going through. Here's how I behave and react to situations. And they said, okay, you have general anxiety disorder, ADHD. You have schizoaffective mood disorder, and on top of that, you're pretty paranoid. Like what we're going to have to do for you is we're going to have to send you, because I saw a professional at the VA, and this guy wouldn't give me a prescription or anything, and he wouldn't continuously see me. So he's like, we're going to have to give you a doctor. You need to go see somebody. And so I decided, all right, I'll get that taken care of. That was back in November, and I just moved down here because I'm living down here in North Carolina now. But I still have yet to go see a doctor yet because I've just been getting this place organized and I've been buying all my stuff. But one of the big things that I did, though, I mean, I've never really had a too terrible time. But with myself, I've sometimes usually had like a rough time. Like I would kind of be rough on myself for things I didn't need to be rough on. And that would have an impact on how I would sometimes react in social situations and react with people. And are there things I regret? Yeah. Are there times where I try to tell people, hey man, if I do say something or act a certain way that offends anybody or puts somebody in this type of position, talk to me. I'm open to apologizing. I'm open to learning a different way. I'm open to learning how to be a different person. But it's just, there's so many people out in the world that don't want to take the opportunity to tell you if you've done something wrong. And so I've been trying my best over the past couple of years to build myself up from the ground up into the person I want to be, not only for myself, but for my daughter. That's why I'm down here, is I finally made it here. I do get to see her on it's kind of weird, but it's almost like a life repeats itself, kind of like my dad did. I get to see her every other weekend. And, I get to try to be the best influence I can be. So it's like life's giving me this chance to go back through what I went through via my daughter's life and fix that by actually being what I needed in that moment. And so that's what I'm focusing on. It's what led me to, hey, you need to be more clean. You need to be more professional. You need everything to be in a proper place. You need to be smart. You need to be on time. You need to worry about your health, and you need to constantly look like you're on top of everything. And I had to stop everything to focus on that for a while, between the moving and the getting the job and the hurdles and, the friends that come and the friends that go and all that stuff in the middle of all that transformation. you eventually kind of lose sight of yourself, and you do have a moment there where you're like, you feel like you're in a whirlpool and you just need to sit down and collect yourself for a minute. And so that's where kind of things are at now. I've always kind of struggled with myself and my placement in society. Mostly due to the fact that I grew up in a life that was like a survival kind of situation. And, and it took me many years, almost like 20 years legitimately, to like truly break out of that mindset of feeling frantic like that constantly. And so now my big goal over these next few years is I truly just want to challenge myself to continue to gain intelligence and to continue to gain, more discipline, and to be able to acquire the type of life and lifestyle that like I need and my family needs in order to have a good one, and I think that's my main goals right now. So for anyone listening to this, don't ever let the teacher in the classroom tell you you can't do what you want to do when you grow up, or that you can't be what you want to be, or that you can't go where you want to go. It just sounds so cliche, and I used to hate it when people said this because I thought it sounded so lame. But if you really put your mind to and obsess over whatever it is you truly want to be in life and what your dream is, and you do it with passion and you actually put yourself to the grindstone for it, you're going to get there. It won't be today, it won't be tomorrow, but eventually you'll get there. And that's where I think a lot of people need to genuinely put a lot of their focus at is when you go through life and you essentially just kind of go over one hurdle at a time rather than looking at it as a wall. Like, I think that's what everyone does, dude. They just look at all of these problems as a wall. No, man, look at it as a hurdle at a time. Solve one issue at a time. One issue in your life, one issue with yourself, one at a time. And before you know it, you're going to say, hey, man, I got like 20 things behind me now and only 3 in front of me. That's pretty cool. And that's what I'm trying to do with life right now. And am I perfect? No. And I don't expect everyone else to be, but I'm trying to be mindful of all of that encompassing. So I can be, David Goggins said this in a podcast once. He said, to be the best self, the best version of yourself that you could be in the one life that you live, you have to imagine that your life is like a tree. It starts with one seed, one route, and then eventually it spurs out into all these different paths. So imagine you die and you go somewhere and somebody is evaluating your life and they said, this is the life that I imagined for you. And it's like the most amazing imaginable thing you could ever think of. And it's just like, if only you did these little things here and there to just deviate your path, this is where you could have been. And I kind of, after listening to that, that's what I try to focus on. Every time I'm coming up to big decisions, or every time I'm, kind of down on myself about, how I'm feeling about, the day or whatever's going on, I try to think of like, okay, where's my feet at? Are they on the ground? And are we genuinely going to be able to work ourselves out of this? And what's the right decision? Because I think I used to just dive headstrong into decision making, and now I actually do like to be patient and take my time. So if I had to summarize everything the thing that I've struggled with and the demon on my back, I think it's self-doubt, I guess, sometimes. But then I have to, I guess, when you're wrestling, you're literally wrestling with that, you just have to overcome it. But it's still there. It's not going to ever go away. But like, you just got to really challenge yourself. And I guess one of the big things too is like, if you're afraid of something, you just got to, that's where you got to dive through that. You got to push past that fear, and you got to just push past it, because it's on the other side of whatever you're afraid of that your peace is. And that's most important for a lot of people.
I couldn't agree more, man. And on that note, amen and amen. That was great, dude. Thank you for sharing all that stuff, bro.
Appreciate it. I appreciate you for your time.
This is really awesome, Matt. Thanks again for suggesting this cat. He was great. This is a pleasure to talk with you, bro.
Yeah, well, normally when I throw my name into a hat, it turns up being good now, doesn't it?
I guess so. Yeah, I'll stroke Matt's ego real quick.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but before I sign us off, bro, Tell everybody about your Twitch channel and just anything else that you would like personally to promote, and have a party with it. Just anybody listening that wants to check out your channel or just any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, feel free to always stop by or say hello if you enjoyed this content. My name's Ferren. You can find me on Twitch. That's www.twitch.com/FERREN. And I also have a YouTube channel. You can find me on Twitter, same thing. So if you guys ever want to stop by and say hello or just hang out and watch some cool content, yeah, feel free to stop by. I'm usually always, clowning around or having some fun. So we'll find something to do that's pretty hilarious, or you'll get to see some shenanigans at some point. But yeah, if you guys want to ever stop by, feel free to let me know, or you guys can let me know you came from the podcast. And if you guys ever want to stop by on the side just to talk and get some advice or vice versa, any doors open door policy. So hope everyone has a great night, and I appreciate everybody for stopping in who's listening to this.
Heck yeah. And when I do the synopsis for the episode, I'm going to get Matt to send some links from your personal page stuff. And then also, Matt, check his stuff out, the Hacks Effect on Twitch. You can send me that link and I'll put that in the synopsis so people can check out Matt. Matt, besides producing and helping do the Wrestling Diaries, he has his own Twitch channel, vintage video game stuff. He works and tinkers on little mechanics of technology and different machinery that he fixes and plays around with. It's pretty cool. I pop in on it every once in a while. But yeah, this is really awesome. For our content, though, the Wrestling Diaries, go to YouTube for the video content, like, share, comment, and subscribe. And for the audio content, you can go to Spotify and Apple Podcasts. The video is also on Spotify as well, and it looks really great. Leave us a review. It's really awesome, and we really appreciate all the support and reviews and comments and the shares, because it just helps, put our content out there more so, and it helps us grow and get people's stories out there, right? To get people's stories out there, and also gives me and Matt more exposure into doing some cool and fun things in our lives. My takeaway from this episode, my Jerry Springer final thought that I always try to give, all cheesy like I am, is Ferren here, Mr. Frank, is the perfect embodiment of this thing that I'm always preaching to people about, how struggle always gets this negative connotation. And it can be bad, and some people, unfortunately, they can't find their ways out of it. But a lot of the times, it can be this wonderful catalyst. Struggle is manhood. Struggle is salvation. And sometimes suffering can lead to a very wonderful life. And I feel like a lot of people, they don't ever think about that. Like I've known so many people that are living such wonderful lives now, and they came from just absolute hell, and they don't sit back and think would they be the same person if they didn't endure that? I don't know. Maybe not. I feel like there's a good chance they wouldn't be. Some of the things that are so hard that you have to fight, the horrid things you have to fight through, is the stuff that makes you just so much better in the end. And I feel like Ferren is a perfect example of that. He is the mascot for the thing that I always preach about this. Your struggles sometimes deserve your positivity and your blessings, because your struggles sometimes is the fruit, right? Because it's the stuff that gets you to the other side, makes you stronger. And I know that's cliche, it's cheesy, but it's also real if you believe it. If you don't believe it, then it doesn't matter, and these words don't mean anything to you. But if you do believe it, that's something very special to go to sleep on thinking about at night. So that's what I implore people to really think about and question themselves. Is all the bad in your life just that? Is it just bad shit? Or is it something that could lead you to being a knight, a dragon, a badass? I don't know. I'm not you. So if you're listening to this, listen to my voice. Think about it. Make up your own assessment. Think about it. Meditate about it. Pray about it. Go to sleep on it. Whatever. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I know I did. As always, it's been a pleasure. What do you wrestle with, and how can you beat it? One love.